Welcome back, City Builders. Kodiak the Kodiak here. The asset editor was not ready for public release at launch and is one of the biggest complaints that people have had about the game, along with a litany of other performance issues. However, those tides are starting to change. Performance is getting better, and modders have already cracked the shell of the game and have started making mods for it. Now, a lot of these mods are brute forced or changing simple aspects of the code and are not using the actual asset editor that's available for early access for certain modders. That being said, that's not stopping any of these modders from digging under the hood and changing and making improvements to the game like we know and love from the original game. Now, there's a total of 15 mods that I think will definitely improve your gameplay experience from the base game. Now, there's quite a few other mods that I'm using. I'm currently using 27 different mods on my playthrough, but today I'm only going to share with you 15 because I think that they provide you with very noticeable gameplay changes that I think will improve things immensely for you, especially if you learn how to use them. And I think they solve a lot of issues that people are currently having with the game. Now, before we get started, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you can keep up to date on all the City Skylines 2 news, tips, and tricks. Without further ado, let's get started. Now, before we go too far, I just want to let you guys know that all of the links for everything I talk about, including the mods as well as the mod platform, which is this place called Thunderstore, are available down in the description down below. So you can find all the links down there. This website, Thunderstore, has kind of become the premier place for City Skylines 2 mods as of this current point in time until Paradox Mods is available. It also has links to the City Skylines 2 modding Discord up at the top, the modding wiki, which is actually provided real resources by City Skylines. The developers of the City Skylines are already providing some early access tools for anyone looking to make mods early until the asset editor and the Paradox mods is fully ready for us to use. They are incredibly excited that people are actually already starting to make mods even without all of their official support, so they're trying to get us these tools and information as quickly as possible. So you can find all that stuff up in the modding wiki as they slowly release it out. They're also looking for more modders to help beta test the asset editor and things like that. So if you are one, you can go onto the Paradox forums, and there's somewhere on there, I'll leave a link to it down in the description as well, where you can apply for that beta access if you have any experience modding with City Skylines. That being said, Thunderstore is kind of the premier place right now, and it is the safest place right now to download and access all of your favorite mods. There's some stuff available on Nexus Mods and some that are exclusively available on their GitHubs, but they seem to have started to progress over to Thunderstore and allow for the Thunderstore Mod Manager support, which is actually really nice and convenient. I have had zero issues with it so far, which is very surprising. Now, as of right now, there's only 2 pages available, but I swear every single day there's something new on here, and there's always updates. Like, I started my stream earlier today, which, again, you can find a link to my Twitch stream down in the description, but I started my stream earlier today, and we had 3 new updates, and by the time I went to go record this video, there were 5 more new updates for these mods. So they're constantly changing, they're constantly updating. So I also want to preface the start of this video by saying if something I show you doesn't look like what the mod currently looks like when you watch this video or download these mods, just know that these mods are constantly changing because they're incredibly early in development. I started recording a video like this before, and so many of the mods changed that I kind of just scrapped it until today. With that being said, in order to use Thunderstore, you can use the Mod Manager. Now, obviously, you can manually download these mods if you want to, but I would highly suggest using the Mod Manager because down in the description down below, I'll actually have an import code that you can actually use to just import and download all of the mods that I'll talk about today in one-click collection. This will allow for you to have that baseline collection of mods that you can then build off of. So in order to download the Thunderstore app or the Thunderstore launcher, whatever you want to call it, Mod Manager, you go up here on the Thunderstore's website to Get App. And you should just be able to download it like any other launcher and then open the program. Once you get everything set up in the program, you should open up to a section like this where it'll go through game selection, and you can scroll down to City Skylines right here. You can also type it into the top and hit select game. Now, my default profile has more mods than the ones I'll be talking about today. However, the ones I'll be talking about today are in this Kodiak's 15 Mods You Need Now collection. If you go down into the description and grab the Thunderstore import code is how it'll be labeled down in the description. You can click here, import, and import new profile. You click from code, and then you paste the code. You hit import, and you should be presented with this. Now, I already have this collection, so I'm going to call this 2, so that way we can see it imported. And here you go. So this is my profile now, and you can select different profiles depending on which mod set you want. If you've ever used Sky, this is kind of similar to that and how it functions, but obviously when Paradox Mods comes along, we won't really have access to the Thunderstore launcher, so we'll probably need Sky still down the road. But in the meantime, this is a really great solution. So we can click on Kodiak's 15 Mods You Need Now, select Profile, And in here, it'll say My Mods, and you should have about 18 mods. I know we talked about 15, but some of these mods require dependencies. Beepin X is a dependency that almost all of these mods use, along with Hook UI, and Clight's mods all require extra UI screens. So those are the ones that are dependent. Everything else in this pack is a mod that we're going to be talking about today. Now, again, if you just want to download these mods individually on the launcher, you can go here to Get Mods, and you can actually scroll through and browse all of the mods that are currently available. So if we wanted something like the Kexford Temperate map, which is a really great map here by Jaxrud, you can actually go through here and you can click and it'll take you to the website. And you can read all of the information about the mod, check the different versions and everything like that. And while on the website, you can just click Install with Mod Manager, and as long as you have the Mod Manager open, it will add it to your current profile. You can also just directly download it from the Mod Manager down here on the download screen. I also forgot to mention Unified Icon Library is another one of the mods that is actually a requirement for some of the other mods and is not included in the 15. Now, if you're doing math at home, that's 4, and if you subtract 4 from 18, you'll realize it's actually 14 mods. And that's because the 15th mod, which is the mod we're going to be started with, is not actually even a mod, and it's actually just developer mode. There's some mods in Thunderstore that are actually just mods that enable features in dev mode, and if you actually just take the time to learn and understand how dev mode works, you can actually just use the base game internal features to enable these. And I believe that it's probably a little bit simpler on the system to use the dev mode features rather than a mod. Now, I have a video on dev mode and how to use it, and in the pinned comments, it shows you actually how to activate it on Game Pass, and in the video, I talk about how to enable it in Steam. I will leave that up in the annotations right now. But there's some things I actually forgot to mention about dev mode, so we're gonna dive into dev mode first. Now, the first time that you boot up the game with mods and are using extended UI screens by Clyte, you'll actually probably notice that your other monitors will also show City Skylines too. And you probably don't want that. Now, if you do want that and you're using maybe like an ultra wide monitor who needs that, or for whatever reason you want to have City Skylines on multiple monitors, that's totally fine. You feel free to use it. Now, if you're like me and you don't want City Skylines on your other monitors, but are required to use this mod because of the dependencies, you're going to want to go into options here, and you're going to want to go right here to extra UI screens mod. And in here, you can see use monitor 1, 2, and 3, and you just make sure that your monitor is selected. So I'm going to make sure that monitor 1 is selected because that's my main monitor, and these are my other 2 monitors on my computer. So that way you can make sure that it is set and crystal clear. After that, all you have to do is restart your game and your other monitors will be back to normal. Okay, so here we are in my first city that I had made. This is Dunlap. I'm working on some other cities right now, but this is my largest population city. It is just over 100,000. When I stopped playing, like I went to 100,000 and then moved on. But that being said, I want to show you guys some features that are in dev mode that I didn't have a chance to show you in the last dev mode video that I would almost consider a mod, but it is a base game feature. These are included in the game. If you just change your launch parameters, you don't have to download anything extra. These features are all already here in the game's code. So the first thing we're going to look at is the extra landscaping tools and being able to actually paint resources on the map. So if you wanted to make a farm somewhere that you don't actually have resources available to you, you can actually paint them on the ground, which is something that you might have had as a mod in City Skylines 1. So we're gonna look right here, as this is an area, if we go into the info view, that does not have any land fertility. So we are going to go to the landscaping tools and we're going to scroll down here and we are going to hit tab. Now, if you haven't watched my dev mode video, please go back and watch the dev mode video because I'm not gonna really go through in detail how and why all this is working or what this all is or any of the other features about it. So please go watch the dev mode video if you're interested in learning more about dev mode and if you're interested in learning the precursor information that you might need for understanding this. So here inside of dev mode, we're going to go to simulation and we're going to look right here as we see active tool terrain tool. You have to make sure that one of the terrain tools right here is selected. Doesn't matter which one, you can have any of them selected and just hit select next. And you'll notice that it now says the ore resource tool. And now we can paint ore on the ground. And we can select the oil resource if we wanted the oil resource instead, or the fertile land, which is what we were talking about. So if we wanted to paint this down for some farms, we can go through and do that. And you can adjust the brush strength here. So if you want it to be really strong and make it just fill in this entire area, we can go ahead and do that. This is something that I did not include in the last developer mode video because I didn't even know it was a feature until the day after I uploaded the video, which is super cool that we actually have this just in the base game features. Now, another thing that I did not talk about in the first video was the Gizmos section. The Gizmos section actually shows off a ton of debug settings, but it also shows you a bunch of different information settings that aren't available in the info view. One of them is the garbage debug system. This was something that I used to help figure out what was wrong with the garbage system in the game and why it wasn't working properly. So as we turn it on, you'll notice that there is a ton of these green bars, and what these green bars represent is how much trash is kind of being produced by each of these buildings and how quickly it's being picked up, or if it needs to be picked up. So red means that it needs to be picked up, and green means that it has been picked up recently. But it also shows off how much is being produced by these buildings. So you can see that the taller the line, the more trash that's actually being produced by these buildings, or maybe is even being stored. And there is a ton of other really cool information features in the Gizmos section, but I'll leave those for you to discover. If you're ever looking for further information on your city, this might be a really good place to go to. Now, another thing that they've kind of enabled in more of the recent updates with developer mode. Now, I don't think that they're intentionally releasing this stuff in dev mode for us to find, but I think that they're putting it in the back end for themselves or furthering their process for the editor that allows these to be accessible in dev mode. I just want that to be evidently clear as I explain this. So if we hit the home button and open up the object menu, obviously my FPS counter is covering it up, so I will turn that off really quickly. So in here in the object menu, obviously we can find all the props and surfaces that we want. There is now a filter option, so we can find a bunch of different filters. I don't really see this as super necessary because if we're already going to search for something, we don't really need the filter, because if we just search for the filter, it'll be there. So I don't really necessarily see the filter as being that useful right now. However, what we can do is if we go in here with this open and select the landscape tool, we'll now notice that there is these brush options down at the bottom. Now, these were available before, but you could not access them. You could not touch them, but now we can actively touch them and interact with them. And one of the really cool things that we can do with this is in brush mode, we can actually select different types of brushes. So right now I have the mountains brush selected, and if we click the brush tool again, we have to click the brush tool again to exit it. So you can't hit escape, you can't hit enter, you have to reselect the brush tool down here. You'll notice that I have a different type of brush. And you can notice if you scroll through a bunch of these that there is a ton of different type of brushes. So there's a rectangle brush here, there is a tendrils brush, there is a mesa brush, which I think is actually really nice right here. And what we can do with those brushes is adjust the size using the slider, as you can see. And if we want to make this raisable, look at that. We have a nice, really nice texture here. We can adjust the brush strength, obviously, if we want to. So if we want it to be not as aggressive, we can do that. I know if it gets too low, it doesn't really like to work at all. So there we go. We can select and make little hills going on here, which actually is a really nice natural looking hill formation just with this mesa. And if you want to rotate it, you can actually do that down here. So if we want the, let's actually move someplace really flat. So like right here, for example, we can build a mesa this direction, and just for posterity's sake, we can move it over here, and we can build the exact same mesa but shaped a different way. So this is that curve right here because we've rotated the brush, which is super cool and something that we can't do outside of developer mode. So again, I highly encourage you guys to take a look around inside of dev mode. There is a lot of really cool features available to you, and it is the first technical mod on the list. The rest are all actual mods, so let's start diving into them. Now, the first mod I want to talk about is actually my favorite mod, which is actually Extended Hotkeys by Cities2Modding. Now, this mod's actually made by 89 Pleasures, but Cities2Modding is a collective of people who are making mods for City Skylines 2, and they work under the name Cities2Modding. Now, not only does this game have some really cool hotkeys, but it also adds features to the game that you didn't know you needed. Okay, so here we are on a city I'm working on for Mountain Village on my Twitch stream, and I'm going to show off some of the features over here. One of the best things about this mod is the ability to use the hotkeys to do things that you can't normally do in game. So first off, this mod has a ton of really cool hotkeys, like being able to select and set different road building tools. So if I wanted to hit Control W right now, you notice that it'll actually switch between simple curve, and if I go back to Control Q, you'll notice it goes back to straight. So you can use those different hotkeys. However, there is a much simpler and easier way to do that. Now, if we hold down the Control key and use our scroll wheel, you'll notice I'll actually cycle through all the different building modes. So obviously this tool is great because it allows us to quickly change between different building types or different road types without having to move our mouse cursor down to the bottom. And it just kind of makes sense. It feels really intuitive, especially when we hold down Alt. So this is now, instead of holding down the Control key to cycle through the different road building modes, which we can go from upgrade all the way to the actual straight road tool, we can only hold Alt and it will increase the height of the road by the amount that we have set. So because we have our highest elevation step over here, it's going in 10-meter increments. And so we can just do that all by holding Alt, which is fantastic. It is something that is absolutely incredible and makes for a really easy management of our gradients, especially when you take into consideration that, well, 10-meter jumps is a little high. But if you hold down Alt and hit right click, you'll notice that the steps down here in the bottom left are actually changing, and we can change the severity of our steps by holding Alt and clicking right click. So this allows us to basically use Control Alt right click and our scroll wheel to do a ton, or pretty much all, of the road building features and tools aside from selecting which road we want. Something I'm going to add in later is that Extended Hotkeys also has a section inside of Hook UI up here where you can actually see the extended hotkeys right here. And in here, you can also see all the keybinds if you wanted to see that, and also turn on or off any of the hotkeys. So if these conflict with any of the other mods, like if another mod uses Control Q or Control W for whatever reason, you can turn them off right here. So you don't have to mess with them and worry about them turning on different things when you don't want them to. Now, even if you're not using developer mode, one of the things that you can do in developer mode is use an anarchy mode. If we go into developer mode, it is this simulation, and we click bypass validation results. And this allows us to basically work in anarchy. So for example, we can't obviously build a road across this farm field. There's no way to do that. It's an overlapping item. However, if we turn on bypass validation results, you'll notice that we can actually do that. And that's because we're using bypass validation results, which is essentially anarchy mode. Now, a really cool thing about extended hotkeys is that you don't even need developer mode in order to enable anarchy or bypass validation results. All you have to do is hit Alt-A. And now that I have that on, I can actually drag it across and boom. And if I hit Alt-A again, you'll notice that I can no longer do that. And if I do hit Alt-A, I can actually place the road again. Now, something else that you might have noticed is that when I do hit Alt-A, you'll notice that there is a little anarchy symbol that appears on screen, signaling that I have anarchy on or bypass validation results. Now, this does not actually come from Extended Hotkeys mod. It comes from 89 Pleasure's other mod, Extended Tooltip, which was the next mod on the list. And this is actually the mod that I saw that I was like, okay, maybe I should give City Skylines 2 mods a try. And let me tell you, it was totally worth it because there is, oh gosh, I'm just so excited to show you guys the rest of the mods. But anyways, let's dive into Extended Tooltip. So here is the Thunderstore page for Extended Tooltip right here. It was last updated 8 hours ago. As you guys can see, these mods are actively being worked on and developed, and 89 Pleasures has absolutely killed it with their mods that they've created. So the key selling point for Extended Tooltip mod is that when you hover over certain surfaces like this road here, you'll notice that I have a bunch of other information. So I have condition is at minus 56%, upkeep is at 80 credits per month, the length is 5 kilometers, and the name is Summit Street. But if we go over to buildings, let's say this residential building, we can see that it's NA residential low, level 3 out of 5, 3 residents, 1 pet, rent is $1,500 per month, and we get a bunch of information up on pretty much every single building that we can hover over. Efficiency over here, employees, and we can do the same thing for commercial buildings, which tells us even more like what it sells just without needing to zoom in. This can be really helpful if the building is giving you pop-up. Like over here, we're seeing that this building is high rent. And so if we hover over it, we can tell what the rent is and maybe start to deduce the problem. So like right here, we can see that there was 1 resident and their rent is $556 a month, and they clearly can't afford it, which means that they can't afford $556 a month. And we can start kind of figuring out the problem by clicking on the resident and clicking on Cedric, and we can see that they are an employee at BevPop, and they clearly don't make enough because they're uneducated, and that's why they can't afford the property that they live in. So we can start to deduce and figure out problems that are going on in our city. Now, this mod makes use of Hook UI. So up here in the top left, as it was already open, we can see a bunch of the other mods that are utilizing this, but we're going to only be looking at Extended Tooltip mod as we click on it right here, and we can see a bunch of the different settings. So I'm not going to go too in depth with all of the options, but if we wanted to, we could just disable the road settings. So now when we hover over the roads, it doesn't pop up. So if there's a certain building or structure that, or even things like roads that you don't want information being shown, you can do that. And there's also drop down carrots. So if you want everything except for the road length and the condition, let's say you don't care about the condition, you only care about the upkeep, you can just have that enabled, or you can turn them all on like this. And it works seamlessly. I've had no issues with this mod whatsoever. And this allows us to also see whether or not anarchy mode is on when we're building. So we can see anarchy on here, and if we hit Alt-A, you can see that it turns off. You can also turn off that anarchy status if you want to. If you've noticed, it actually says straight on my actual road icon. You can actually turn that off if you want to as well as you can see right here that it tells us when we have our elevation changed and what it's actually set to. So that's above, and if it doesn't show up, that means we're at ground level. Up in the top here, you can actually disable the mods. If you just don't want it at all, you can just toggle it off if you think it's causing problems. Or up here in display mode, you can change whether or not it'd be delay or hold with Alt key. So you can just let it pop up slowly over time, or you can make it so you have to hold down the Alt key for it to pop up. These two mods are great, and obviously because 89 Pleasures made both of them, they work in conjunction very well together, and I think they're absolutely fantastic. And if there's any two mods that you guys download, these might be the two that I think you should give a try, because they add so many cool quality of life features that I think will improve your gameplay experience. Just to further drive home the point about how often these mods actually get updated, as I was recording this video on Thursday when I woke up, there was even more new updates to Extended Tooltip mod. Now, I don't have the time to record every single thing that's been added to this mod, so if you're interested, please always make sure you go down to the update sections of many of these mods, or go to the GitHub page and look at the releases to see all the new things, because again, these mods are constantly changing and being updated, which is great for the health of the game and the modding community. Next up is one of the biggest complaints that City Skylines 2 had was the fact that you had to sit and wait for trees to grow. Well, not anymore with only adult trees, also by Cities 2 modding. Now, this is an experimental mod, and it's something that they haven't really updated since it came out, and a mod later actually even does something like this a little better, but you have to use the tool that it's using, so I figured I would just include this one in there in case you want to do individual trees rather than maybe something like a line tool, which we will be talking about later. But Only Adult Trees does a really good job with it and was one of the first mods to allow us to even be able to do this, so respect is due. Now, this mod doesn't work seamlessly, but it is a lot better than the base game feature of allowing your trees to grow up slowly over time. So if you really don't want to wait for your trees, bushes, or anything else to grow up fully over time, this is going to be a really good solution for you. Now, trees don't instantly grow to full, but they do take only about 10 seconds of running the game at 3 times speed after you place the tree in order to grow up fully. You do also have to highlight over them, but I'll show you guys how that works. Something I forgot to mention when recording this section is it actually affects every single tree on the map too. So if you don't want any juvenile trees on your map at all of your forests will be fully grown adult. So if you do want trees to grow, just not the ones that you place, know that this mod will stop them all from growing. So every single tree on the map will grow really quickly to adulthood and stay there for a really long time. So all you have to do is find a tree that you want. So let's go with a linden tree here. Let's say we want to place a couple lindens down. So let's place a couple lindens down right here. And we can sit and wait for the trees to grow up fully. So you'll notice that they are at 0 wood, just like you would place a normal tree. But we know that fully grown trees will have a lot more wood than this. So all we have to do is sit here and wait at 3 times speed. And as you can see now, it's at 1402, which is the size it needs in order to be a fully grown tree. That took maybe about 10 seconds of running the game at 3 times speed. And all you have to do now is hover over the tree and it will fully grow. I believe that is a bug. I believe it's just supposed to automatically become a fully grown tree, but I've noticed that I do have to like highlight over the tree in order for the game to catch up and recognize, hey, this is a fully grown tree. But that being said, it is a significant faster and easier way to do detailing with trees rather than the base game letting the trees grow up slowly over time. So if that's something that annoyed you, this mod will help with solving that issue. Now, this next mod doesn't necessarily have any gameplay features that are essential, but this is a really awesome mod for making it less confusing, and so you don't have to go through your file structure in order to install things like maps, which is Map Installer. This automatically installs any maps that the map creator actually works with in order to make the map install automatically. So if any of you have downloaded City Planner Plays Magnolia Bay map, which I'll leave a link to his video on that down in the description, there is a map installer built into that where you have to hit it, you double click it, you type Y, and it automatically installs the map into a folder. However, when you do that using pretty much anything else that doesn't have a map installer, so like many of the mods on Thunderstore, it doesn't automatically install the map and you have to manually go in and install it into your folders. However, you don't have to do that with Map Installer. All you have to do is download Map Installer, and anytime you download a map off of Thunderstore, as long as the map creator created the map properly in order to work with Map Installer, which again, I haven't found a map that didn't work with it yet, it should automatically put it in the correct folder. Now, as far as I know, this only works with Thunderstore maps, so they have to upload the map to Thunderstore, but this does work with maps like Kexford, Cali Coast, or Dolphin Bay. Now, the last mod by Cities 2 Modding is something called Legacy Flavor. Now, this is a mod that I think even City Planner Plays says is the only mod that he's currently using in his builds, and for good reason. It adds a lot of the things that we remember about City Skylines 1, or even quality of life features like colorblind mode for those of us who can't see certain colors, to be able to accurately see different zoning types and different zoning colors. Now, this mod adds a ton of stuff, as we can see from the features here, and I would encourage you to mess around with some of them because I'm just not going to be able to show them off all effectively and quickly in this video. However, I will show you guys how to toggle off some of the certain features and toggle on to some of the other ones that I personally use. Something that I've mentioned quite a bit throughout this video is the fact that these mods are constantly changing and updating, and when I recorded that previous section, I forgot that there's actually Legacy Flavor UI now. So if you go up here to the Hook UI, and you can actually click inside of the Legacy Flavor, and it shows you all the actual settings. So you don't need to know the keybinds, you can just click up in here, and if you want the keybinds, you can go to the actual page in Thunderstore. Now, one of the things that I like to use is use units. So instead of the game displaying the, let me just say that the UI page for that is really laggy. It's not it is just how that's implemented right now. So when we go in here and I actually go to build a road, you'll notice that it says U 6.78. So if you're used to using units like from City Skylines 1 and the mods that provided that, you can actually still use units in this game, and they're right there. Now you can actually toggle that off by hitting Alt-U, and you can go back to your meters, or you can go up here into the Legacy Flavors UI screen and toggle them on or off. And there's a ton of other settings in here. So you can use sticky whiteness, which overrides the game's white info modes. You can switch to custom settings or toggle with Alt-S. So this basically, if we go in here to our info mode, and we can notice that we are in here with the resources map, and we can see all of the resources on here. But if we want to get rid of this whiteness for whatever reason, like whenever we select a building or something like that, and we just want a hotkey to get rid of all this white stuff, we can hit Alt-S, and this will toggle it on. So obviously we can't see that it's on right now, but if we were go into legacy mode settings, so right here, we exit out of this, and we go to Legacy Flavor, we'll now notice that sticky whiteness is on, and we can also hit Alt-S, and you can notice that it toggles on or off. And what this does is it allows us to then hit Shift-W whenever we want to toggle on those info view whitenesses. So if we go in here to the natural resources, we can hit Shift-W, and we can turn on the whiteness if we want to turn it on or off, which is really nice. We can also freeze time visuals. So when freeze the visual time of day, day-night visuals must be on. So if you get to a setting that you actually like if you like the time of day, the lighting that it's at, you can hit freeze time and it will hold it there. But again, day-night visuals must be on, because if you don't have that, you can't get the independent lighting. Another thing you can also do is set the visual time of day. So if you just want it to be golden hour all the time, so let's actually test this by going into options. We're going to go into gameplay here, and we're going to turn on day-night visuals. We're going to go all the way back out. And we're going to notice that is at 2 a.m. So it's going to be nighttime now. What we can do is now pause the game. We can go back into Legacy Flavor, and we can set it to golden hour. And I'll also make it sunny so it doesn't rain or snow. I can exit out of it, and then I can hit play. So I did have to toggle it back and forth a couple times, but if you toggle it between day and golden hour while the game's playing, it will eventually just set it to golden hour, and it will freeze that time of day, and it will permanently be in the golden hour of your game. So your lighting will constantly be like this. Or if you find another lighting that you like, you can just go in and hit that freeze time of day, and it'll hold it there. Now, that doesn't affect your gameplay simulation. It will still give rush hours at the specific times down in the bottom left, but just so you know, that setting is there. Now, Legacy's flavor has a bunch of zone settings, so you can do custom zone colorings, or you can go into zone colors and actually adjust them automatically by using these sliders, which is really nice and awesome. So if you have any kind of colorblind settings, you can actually go up here and pick which color blindness you have, and you can select the colorblind settings for it. Now, other than selecting color blindness modes, I haven't really messed around with this. Again, these are all new features that were not available when I initially looked at this mod, and is one of the many reasons why I constantly keep updating this video. So again, if the mod looks completely different when you're looking at this, just know that there's constant updates, and I'm trying my best to get this information out to you guys as quickly as possible. Now, the next mod I'm going to talk about is actually not made by Cities 2 Modding, which almost all of the mods except for Dev Mode up until this point were made by Cities 2 Modding, but this one is finally not. This one's made by slyh, and this is Traffic Lights Enhancement Alpha. Now, if you watch Biffa's video on it, you probably already know what this mod is, and if you want to learn about all of the features that this mod has to offer, I would still highly suggest going to watch Biffa's video, which I'll put in the annotations up above. I'm only really doing that to keep this video nice, sweet, and short, so that way you guys can just go over to his video that he already put time and effort into kind of explaining all of the features about this mod. However, one thing you don't need to watch in Biffa's video is how to install it, because it's actually on Thunderstore now. It's no longer on GitHub. Well, actually, it still is on GitHub, but it's available for you on Thunderstore now as well. Now, to give a brief explanation of how this mod works, essentially what it does is it allows you to go into your road services tool, and any traffic lights you can select just like this. And if you notice on the left-hand side here, you'll see traffic light enhancements. You can adjust how the traffic signal at this junction works, whether or not it uses the vanilla section or functions of the traffic light, split phasing, advanced split phasing, or protected left turns. So left turns get their own go ahead. You can also have an exclusive pedestrian phase if you have a lot of pedestrian traffic going through there, and also always green right turns if you want to. But the big thing about this mod that I really like using is the lane direction tool, which you can hit open right here and select each one of the lane directions and set each lane to be a specific lane direction. So if you want this lane to be a left turn only, you can do that. And if you want this one to not have left turns, you can do that as well. And the arrows correspondingly change, as well as your road lines. Now, another mod that was also only available on GitHub until pretty recently when it was put onto Thunderstore is Extended Road Upgrades by STApps. This is a fantastic mod and will severely change how you build roads, including how you build bridges, key walls, and retaining walls. So let's look at this bridge right here, and as you can see, it is an elevated bridge. It is an elevated platform. What we can do is select the key wall selection and actually turn it just into a key wall on this side, and then also select this side, and boom, we have a full key wall if we want to create these bridge platforms. Now, they don't work exactly perfect. As you can see, there is some pretty severe clipping going on right here, and that is just some limitations that the game has. However, if we wanted to, let's say this was already a key wall, we can extend the key wall out if we wanted to for aesthetic reasons out to here. And if you want to revert it back, all you have to do is right click and it undoes your actions. Now, let's say I place this road here, and let's say I wanted a retaining wall on the left side. We can do that as well by selecting the retaining wall and selecting it on the left. And now we can go through with the level terrain tool. Obviously, we were using dev mode, so let's go back in and change our brush. And I'll again show you guys how to do that by selecting our terrain tool, going through here to default brush, reselecting default brush, and there we go. Now we have our regular default brush back. We can reduce the brush size. Here we go, level terrain, and drag it out. And now we can see that we have this terrain height for our retaining wall. And if we wanted to, we can right click and turn it off. And now we just have a steep hill. But if the game's not giving you what you want, this is a really good way to force it to do that. And again, this also works with tunnels and creating elevated roads. So if we wanted to turn this into an elevated road, you can obviously see now there is a little bit of an elevated height difference right there. And you can again turn that off by right clicking. So if we wanted to put a key on the right side here and we wanted to put a retaining wall on the other side, we can obviously do that. So if you're ever looking to build roads like this, this is how you can do it. Next up is a mod that was on Nexus Mods that was eventually now moved over to Thunderstore. So if you download this on Nexus Mods, it's now over here on Thunderstore by CaptainOfCoit called CityMonitor. Now this is a mod that exists in City Skylines 1 that I really like and I always used in City Skylines 1, so I'm glad that it's now available in City Skylines 2. And in order to activate it, we go here to the City Skylines 2 game, which I was paused on. We go up here to Hook UI, which again you need for this one, and you go up here to CityMonitor, and it will pop up a window right here, which explains, which actually has all of your city resources. Now, it's not sized great for my screen, but I can put it right here if I want to. It can cover up whatever I want, and it will have all of my city monitoring settings, and you can turn them on or off if you want to. Like, if I don't have a university yet, so I can turn off the university availability, and it shrinks down the screen. So you can only have the ones up that you possibly need. So I noticed that my water availability is getting low, and this is something that I can just keep on the side of the screen and keep paying attention to. So if this is something that you want for monitoring your city's resources, you can do that here on the right-hand side of the screen, or on the left-hand side of the screen, or wherever the heck you want to put it in CityMonitor. Now, speaking of your monitoring things in game, we also have Deranged Teddy's unemployment monitor. Now, this will allow us to check our unemployment, which is actually really good for helping figure out what's wrong with our city sometimes. So we can go back over to City Skylines 2, and I'm actually going to load back into one of my older saves that has a lot of population, because this city really doesn't have that much in terms of unemployed citizens. So if we look at Dunlap here, I have 100,000 citizens, and we can look at who's unemployed and who's not. If we go to workplace availability, we can notice in here how our unemployment is. But if we want to keep this up on screen, now granted we have 13% unemployment in this city, we can actually go over here to the Hook UI and click on unemployment data. This opens up another pop tab, just like CityMonitor, and we can have them both up on the screen at the same time. It will reset them based on what you have open, but we can have them both open on the side of the screen if we want to. So we can see that I have 41 homeless families in this city, and I have 13% total unemployment. Most of the unemployment comes from my educated population, which is 24%, which means I should focus on industries and sectors that provide employment for those educated people, or help them get to their education needs in order to become well educated, which is the college. This can help us figure out what's wrong with our city, why there's high rent, and why people are going homeless. It's a really great mod, and it's something that's nice to keep up on screen, or just pop open when you want to, because it is a little bit easier of an infographic to look at and understand what the problems are. Now, next up is one of the first mods that was uploaded for City Skylines 2 by TDW, which is EconomyFixer. Now, again, this is one of the first mods uploaded to Thunderstore. TDW was trying to figure out where to upload it, and he wanted to help rework the economy system. He did not like how stimulus money and a bunch of other stuff worked out. I was helping him beta test one of the most recent versions, which will be coming out soon, which will have more extended options and a drop-down menu and a bunch of other stuff. But essentially what this does is it reworks how your economy in your game works. So when you hit milestones, you don't get as much stimulus money, and your subsidies will slowly go down over time. The game also does not give you subsidies in order to necessarily make money, and it really encourages you to build a better economy. Some people have even said that it makes their gameplay feel easier, where I think it actually just makes you build your city in a productive and efficient way, so that way it can be profitable and it's easier to expand off of it later. There's even different setting modes that are coming out in the newer version of the mod that will include in the dropdown, and there'll also be an option for eminent domain. So when you go to bulldoze a building, it will cost you money, and the building then has to be demolished and abandoned, not just delete it from existence. This is a really good mod if you're looking to challenge yourself from the simulation side of things and you think that the gameplay experience is a little too easy. Trust me, it will make it harder, especially in the harder settings. This is the only balance mod I'll include in this list, mostly because I think the other balance mods are just a little untested, and I haven't had too much of an experience working with them yet to see how they directly change certain aspects of the simulation. Whereas this one, I have had enough experience to say that it gets my thumbs up if it's something that you're looking for. Next up, we're going to be going through the two mods uploaded by Algernon, who is a storied modder from City Skylines 1, and they also have a support the creator option here on Thunderstore. Again, if you guys are ever looking to support the modders who help bring you such great things to the game, always consider supporting the mod makers. The HistoricalStart mod by Algernon adds some nice starting features to the game, like rail, shipping, and specialized industry being available from the start. It also enables the placement of train stations and cargo terminals without having to place the depot first. As Algernon explains here, this makes it much easier to lay out and grow a city that historically would have been founded prior to the automobile era. So if you're actually thinking about your city from a lore era, this will allow you to properly utilize the transport networks or industries those cities would have been originally founded for and developed around. So you can develop around a trade station from the very beginning, even if it's not properly functioning from the start. To partially offset the XP gains for these items have been reduced by 90% and will also still need to be manually unlocked and spend the points for the train progression node in the transportation tree if you want to unlock the subsequent nodes. Also, if you want to get, I believe the sub buildings aren't unlocked unless they have updated the mod to fix that. Originally, you could not unlock the sub buildings either, and that was something that you were going to have to unlock over time. The other mod by Algernon that I suggest, which is flippin' amazing, is the Line Tool Lite mod. And it does exactly what you think it does, is allows you to actually place trees and bushes in a line, and it works just like the line tool in City Skylines 1. Let me show you guys how it works. So let's say we wanted to place a row of pine trees right here from this building all the way over to this road. We can do that by going into the line tool. Once we have it downloaded, we just hit Control L and it opens up the line tool. Now there is a bug in it where it's kind of invisible. This wasn't an issue in the last version of the mod, so when you guys are playing with this, there's probably not going to be just a highlighted tree. It does, at least originally when I first downloaded it, it showed an actual preview of the tree, but it does show a preview of the fully grown tree, even if it's invisible, and shows you the actual size of the tree. And there's different modes you can use, like fence mode, which I assume we'll use for props, which we can take a look at in the object menu if that actually works. I haven't tested it yet, but you can also make a curve if you want to. So as we can see here, it actually is placing the trees out, and we're seeing a preview. And if we want to create the corner right here, and we can curve it up to there if we want to. And when we press place, it places fully grown trees in their proper spots. Now, if you don't want to wait for the adult trees mod to fully grow trees, you can also just alternatively use the line tool, place one tree and then place it again, and it will place a fully grown tree there, and you don't have to wait for it to grow. Just know that when you open the line tool, you can't go back and select other trees. You are just stuck with that one until you hit escape and go back to the landscape tool. So it is like a little bit of an extra step. So if you're working with multiple bushes, it might be easier to just use the adult tree mod, but hopefully the adult tree mod or this mod will allow for individual adult tree placement over time. As of right now, the recording of this, that's not the case. Anyways, all of this stuff will live update. So let's say we want to adjust the line spacing of these trees. We can go down into the spacing tab. Obviously, they're spaced really far apart, but as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see them actually moving. There is a set minimum for each tree distance. When I first downloaded the mod, there wasn't, but they have now adjusted it so that the spacing is as you can see, set minimum, so that way trees do not overlap on top of one another and place unnecessary trees that will disappear. So you can adjust those out. You can also add rotation to the trees, so if you want them to all rotate, or you can set a random rotation so all the trees are a different rotation, and as you can see, they are moving and rotating as I move. There's also variable spacing, so you can make it so the trees all have like kind of gaps. It's basically random tree spacing if you want, so that way there's a little bit more of a variety in your spacing. And you can also do variable offset to help create an actual forest if you really wanted to. As you can see here, it actually makes it so they're kind of at different spacings, and helps give you a more random feel. There's a ring mode as well, as we can see right here. And we also saw the curve tool earlier. So as we can see right here, we have a hedge piece, and if we hit Control L, we'll enter fence mode. And as you can see, actually, wait, hold on. We gotta select this one. There we go. And as you can see, it sets it up like a fence. So you can actually draw a hedge line across here. So if you want hedge rows, much like how the assets have some of the hedges built in. If we go over here to the school, we can see that there's a hedgerow. We can actually create those ourselves now using the fence mode. So if you're using developer mode and you want to access the objects, you can actually start beginning to do things like move it. Obviously not move it exactly. That'll come out soon. Hopefully, Cuboid, thank you. And then, we're already kind of getting to those points. But in the meantime, this is a really great feature, and it allows us to just basically do what the line tool offered in City Skylines 1. Now, the last two mods we're going to talk about today are right here. They're made by Clite45. Clite is another really great modder from City Skylines 1. I'm sure you probably used a Clite mod at some point if you've ever modded City Skylines 1. They both require UI screens, which we talked about earlier in the video. So if you guys want to show how to turn those off, again, earlier in the video, but we have ExtendedTransportManager and Addresses CS2. Now, in order to show off both of these mods, I'm going to dip into a new map and show them off. Okay, here we are in this map. This is the Norfolk map, which is available on Nexus mod, so you can't use the map installer for it, but it is a really awesome, realistic height map of Norfolk, Virginia. Next week, we're going to be doing a video on all of the really cool and awesome custom-made maps that are available. It seems like all of the height maps don't have like outside borders just because probably limitations of the map maker currently. But this is all of Norfolk, Virginia. It goes like this. This is north. This is actually the Atlantic Ocean up here. This literally ends like right here, I think. And this is all Atlantic Ocean, so it actually feels pretty realistic. But for the time being, actually, let me turn off day and night vision so it actually looks more normal. Okay, there we go. And this is just of Norfolk, Virginia. It's a really nice height map, I will say. And the nice thing about it is that it has really smooth, nice gradients, so it's actually really easy to build on, even if you don't want to do any terraforming. That being said, we're here to talk about Clyte's 2 mods. And the first one we're going to talk about is ExtendedTransportManager. This is the successor to Transport Manager and, Transport Line Manager and Improved Transport Manager from City Skylines 1, combined into one mod. Clyte did say that the overall idea is to bring some tools to better manage and visualize the public transport of the city, and it may take several months in order to get all of the features, if not more, included in this mod. So in order to access Clyte's mods, you need to hit Control-Tab, and this will open up Clyte's overlay. I believe this is kind of like Hook UI, but just a different system for it to work. These almost act as overlay mods. So down here, we can see the addresses for CS2 and the Extended Transport Manager options down here, as well as extra UI screen settings, which again, you can toggle these on or off in here. Again, functions very similar to Hook UI. So if we go down over here to Extended Transport Managers, we can see in here that there is a bunch of options for line listings. Now, right now, we don't have any line listings to take a look at all of these settings. So let's back out and build some bus networks. Now, in order to keep things nice and simple, I created 4 bus lines. Now, you obviously can't see them inside of this grid, but they are there. We're going to hit Control-Tab, to go back to the extended or extra UI screen settings and go into XTM. Now, in here, we can see all of our lines. So we have bus line 1, 2, 3, and 4. We can see the length, what type of lines they are. Details are go, so that means they're active currently. How many vehicles are on the line? We have 0 because we don't have any of them. We can put acronyms for them and number the lines. If we want to change this to line number 5, we could do that. Now, it does break everything when we do that, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, never mind, I take it back. And we're not going to touch that. Again, all these mods are kind of experimental. They're in their early stages. I don't know what they do. We're just trying stuff out because new things are always happening all the time. And sometimes features work before and now they don't because of new updates. So the real reason that kind of drew me this mod early on was the color palette settings. So obviously we have city palettes, so we can manage all palettes that can be used. We can create a new palette or import from a library. Let's import from a library. Let's import from USA, and let's import the Chicago CTA color palette. So we're going to copy this, city import name, US Chicago CTA. We can randomize the color order, sure, and we can import it. So now we have this city palette. We can go over to color palette settings now, and we can use the Chicago CTA color palette for our bus lines, and it will automatically, and we can set different color lines for everything, and it will automatically recolor our lines. So if we go back over here to the line listings, we'll notice that these are no longer blue and that they're different colors based on the Chicago CTA. And if we want to go all the way back out and go to our transport view here, we'll notice that they're also recolored on here. So we have a green line, we have a brown line, we have an orange line, and we have a blue line. They were randomly chosen for the lines. And if we wanted to make a new line, let's say we wanted to have a line that goes from here to here, up to here, then back over to here. Who cares where it goes? It doesn't really matter. And it recolors it automatically. So it's basically auto line recolor, which is also awesome, which is really nice because the game doesn't have a base auto recolor feature, which I feel like it just should. It should just auto recolor your line, so it's not just streaks of blue running past one another. So this provides that feature for you. Now, again, you can set different colors for different types of transit. So if we wanted a different color palette, all we'd have to do is either create a new color palette where we can go in and, create different color palettes. If we want to do one, we can change this to whatever hex code we want. I don't understand the palette path. Again, I haven't really messed around with this. I've just been using it as an auto line color, and I've just been selecting Chicago basically when I wanted to use it. We can also edit it if we want to change or delete a color from it, or we can import obviously from different palettes. So if we want to use São Paulo color palette from Brazil, or any of the other Brazil ones, or we wanted to use generic ones, that Apple Macintosh color palette, wrong accessible palette, any of these other cool ones. We have the UK's London 2016 pack, so we can do that. Copy to city, city import name, we can do that one. Yes, randomize color order. Actually, let's not randomize, so it goes red, yellow, green, pink, gray. So we'll hit import, and then we go back over to our bus lines and we change it over to London now. If we go back over to the line listings, you'll notice it is now red, yellow, green, pink, and gray. Now, one of the last mods I was going to talk about here was Clite's addresses mod, which you can find in Clite's UI interface down here, addresses mod for CS2. It took me a long time to kind of figure out exactly how this mod works. So the reason I wanted to show it off was explicitly for, if we go into name override settings and we go to districts, down here we can use the district name as a station name for the first station of each modal. We can also go into roads here and do the same thing as use road name as station name. What this does is it allows us to have our stations, so our train stations, our subway stations, and any stops that function as stations essentially, will be renamed after wherever they are placed. So for example, if we place a train station in a district, it will be named after the district. Now, there's a lot more things that this mod can do, like change different name presets. If I go over here to the simple name viewer, you notice that I have some pre-made naming conventions that are already in here. Now, these won't be available for you, and that's kind of the complicated part of this mod. Clyte actually took time out of their busy day, literally stopped working on their actual job to come talk to me about this mod and help walk me through it. And after talking with them, we both kind of realized that maybe this mod shouldn't be included in the video because there's still a lot of work to do. But if you're interested in learning about it, you can stop by my Twitch stream anytime, and I'll try my best to explain it while I'm playing City Skylines 2. So instead of Clyte's addresses mod, I have then chosen a new mod that literally came out the day after I recorded the video, called Map Texture Replacer. Again, the modding landscape is constantly changing, and this one has added into the ranks of top 15 mods, because I think down the road, this mod will become Theme Mixer 3, or the theme mixer for City Skylines 2. Unless there is a more advanced theme mixer that may come out, which again, could totally happen. But for the meantime, Map Texture Replacer does exactly what Theme Mixer does on a pretty simple level. So all we have to do is go up here to the top left to the QI button, and we can now see the Map Texture Replacer mod. So if we select this, you can load an entire texture pack. So if somebody, eventually I expect there to be some more texture packs that will come out for this mod that will allow us to reskin our maps. But for the time being, there is currently a desert map. And while I honestly am not a super big fan of it, the reason that I think that this mod, and here you go, here is the desert theme. The first time I loaded this in, it did not actually give me the proper ground texture. So I actually do like this a lot better. Oh my goodness. Yeah, again, the first time I loaded this in, it was like a really solid, flat, sandy surface. So I don't know if that's just a bug. So maybe just restart your game, because wow, this actually looks really good. I'm genuinely surprised by how good the sand texture looks. So again, as you can see, this map went from Mountain Village, which was a very like lush mountainous map, to now something that feels a little bit more deserty. So if you're looking to make a desert map or convert any of the existing maps into a desert map, you can do that using Map Texture Replacer. And eventually, when people create new textures, we'll be able to create different map themes over time. And again, I didn't download anything extra. All I did was hit load texture pack. It'll pop up the open file thing right here, which should bring you straight to where the map theme is. And then I just double clicked the zip file. So those last two might have been a little confusing, but there you have it. There are the 15 mods, or 14 plus dev mode, if you want to be specific, that I think you should be playing the game with, that I'm playing the game with, that have made my gameplay experiences so much better, easier, more convenient, improved my quality of life, and made features in the game that I think should have just been there to begin with, like Line Tool Lite, many of the features that are in extended hotkeys, as well as ExtendedTransportManager's auto line recolor tool. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If there's any mods that you think I forgot, or have maybe come out or have been updated since I've made this video, please feel free to put them in the comments, and maybe other people will go down there and explore and find some other mods. As more come out, I would love to do more videos, and next week we're going to be doing a video about all of the new maps that have come come out in the mod workshops as well, because there are 3 really cool ones right now that I am really obsessed with, and I'm excited to show those off to you guys, as well as an honorable mention of that Norfolk map, which is, again, a height map, so it's a realistic map of the terrain of Norfolk, Virginia, but I think they just did a really good job smoothing out the terrain or importing the height map or whatever they did. I think it's a really nice map. That being said, I want to thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.